Welcome, everyone. This is Lisa Colton from Darim Online and C3 Communications. We are thrilled to have you here in our second webinar in this series on maturing your social media practice for your synagogue. Thanks to UJ Federation of New York for funding this series, and thanks to all of you for being here. Just as a reminder, this session is being recorded, and the recording, along with the slides and links to any resources that we mention, will be emailed to everyone who registered for the series. So that will be coming to you within the next day or so after the webinar concludes. And in the future, the next 3 sessions, you'll also be getting the login information approximately 1 day before the webinar and follow-up resources after, whether or not you were here live. Thank you all for being here today. We have a huge number of people from synagogues around the country that are registered for this series. We welcome you to use the question and chat features in your control panel to contribute to our conversation today. Last week we had a plethora of questions and people sharing their experience and examples related to the work, and we really welcome and encourage you to do that again today. If you're tweeting about our session, you can use Darim Online, UJA Fed NY. I'm Lisa Colton, and our presenter today is Bridget Calling, so all of those are relevant if you are tweeting. Let's talk about what we're going to do today. We are focused on paid media. I'm going to give you a little bit of context and introduction to why we think this is one of the top 5 things that you should know for maturing your social media and digital practice today. And then we're going to talk about the difference between paid versus owned and earned media so that you can understand the kind of way that those 3 things play together. And then we'll talk about Google Ads and Google Grants, which religious organizations are now eligible for. And we'll talk about Facebook ads as a core aspect of your social media paid marketing as well. So by way of introduction into our topic today, I want you to think about who you're targeting in your network. And for synagogues, you have a pretty good open communication channel with current members and people who have signed up to receive your information, whether they signed up for your e-newsletter or they are have liked your Facebook page or they follow you on Twitter, for example. But in many cases, the people that you're targeting actually are the folks that you're trying to engage from the very beginning. So they're not on your channels already. And you somehow have to figure out how to get in front of them, get their attention, earn their trust, and engage them to take action. So when we talk about engagement, I want you to think about a ladder of engagement, that you want to help people get to the bottom rung of that ladder and then design your media and communications for them to go up each step of that ladder. So today, as we talk about paid media, one of the things that we're really going to focus on is not only who are you trying to target and how your paid media can get in front of those people, but also how are you going to design your paid media to be action-oriented, that as people see that information, you are in the right place at the right time, and you are designing for them to take action, stepping up each rung of that ladder. So I've brought in one of my very good friends and a real expert in paid media. My go-to person is Bridget Calling, who works at C3 Communications with me and is the Director of Content Strategy. Bridget, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your expertise with this crew. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into paid media.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here and talking about one of my favorite subjects in digital marketing, which is paid media. I spent the beginning of my marketing career in for-profit marketing, which, as you can imagine, there's a lot of paid media involved in that. And now I'm very happily at C3, just working with the do-gooders and with nonprofits, especially in the Jewish community, which is fabulous. We recently did a very similar presentation with some organizations who are working with Jewish teens and running some summer programs for them, and they found this really helpful, so I hope you do as well. And so some of my favorite digital marketing topics aside from paid media right at this moment are things like audience-centric content, and I don't know if any of you have heard about micro moments, but it's this thing that Google keeps talking about and is saying is the next wave of marketing. So if you want to get really nerdy and into the next wave of marketing, look up micro moments and you'll find a lot of interesting marketing philosophical thought on that. It's basically taking the idea of audience-centered content and driving it down to the split seconds when someone's making a decision about, where do I need to go, where do I want to go eat for lunch, or what kind of program am I going to use to manage this project, and trying to get in people's heads at those very specific moments. And you can get in people's heads using digital tools now, and use those to help drive decision making. And it's very interesting to me. So you can already tell how much of a nerd I am just from that statement right there. In addition to thinking about digital marketing, I also love cooking. I've been cooking a lot of stuff on the New York Times cooking blog lately, which has been awesome. I highly recommend it. I travel a lot, both for work and for pleasure. Just got back from a trip to New Orleans with my college friends, which was so great. And I binge on a lot of podcasts. I've been listening to Hidden Brain a lot recently, which is all about social science, and is very it's a good one. I highly recommend it. So that's more about me, and I'm really excited to talk with you all about paid media today. So we're going to focus on two goals for our next, a little less than an hour that we have together here. So goal number one is to learn how to leverage paid media as part of your overall communications plan, and then goal number two is to learn the benefits of some of those popular and effective paid media platforms that are out there. And so that's Google Grants and Facebook ads. So we're going to go into detail on both of those. So why is paid media important? Well, Lisa already spoke to this a bit at the beginning. It's really about finding your target audience and figuring out where you need to reach them and how you can drive them to action. That's so critical to any marketing strategy. And paid media is an important part of your overall marketing strategy because you can really use it to amplify your message. When Lisa mentioned paid versus owned versus earned media, there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot that goes into your marketing strategy that's really important for you to think about creating great content from the very beginning. So if you just get out there and you have content that doesn't really speak to your target audiences, that doesn't really address what their goals and their needs are, there's no reason to put advertising dollars behind it because it's not going to resonate well with people. But I think a lot of the organizations who are participating in these webinars, I think a lot of organizations generally do have some understanding of what kind of content their audience wants or is interested in, and they just need help getting it to them. And that's where paid media comes in, because paid media is a really effective megaphone for your message and helping you spread it out to a wider audience. But again, just wanted to reiterate that having really great content to begin with is one of the most important parts of paid media. And there's no reason to put marketing dollars behind something that you don't really love or that you don't think is going to really resonate with who your target audiences are, because that kind of that's not going to be a good investment of your resources. And another reason why paid media is so important is because as these tools have gotten more advanced, like I was mentioning with micro moments just a second ago, these digital tools can really pinpoint people at specific moments in their lives, in their day-to-day, in their general interests, in their connection to your organization. And that is part of what is so cool about paid media to me, is how it helps marketers and organizations target people more effectively who actually care about your message. So instead of reaching out and doing kind of trying to reach as many people as possible, as wide as you possibly can, what a lot of people today does is says, listen, instead of just doing that and trying to spread your message as far and wide as possible, we're going to get your message to the right people who are actually going to be delighted to see this message, who are actually going to want to take action, who are going to be interested in your organization. And that to me means better, happier recipients of marketing messaging and communications messaging, and better marketing overall. So I think that's really exciting, and that's something that we're going to talk about a lot today, because both Google Grants and Facebook ads have a lot of really advanced audience targeting that organizations can leverage, and it can be very powerful in reaching the right people.
So
And then
Bridget,
just bringing it all together here. Yeah,
Bridget, as you
yeah.
dive into this slide in particular, um,
Mm-hmm.
a couple people have noted that they are scrambling to take notes on all of the brilliant things that you're saying and
Ah,
asking if
yes.
you can slow down a bit because paid media is really a new topic for a lot of people and they're trying to absorb it. So I know this slide is particularly juicy. So slow down a little bit
Absolutely.
and allow people to digest. Thanks.
Happy to do that. So talking about the intersection of all of these things that we've been speaking about, paid media, earned media, and owned media, what do these all mean for your organization and how can they help you move your message forward and really drive your target audiences to action? Um, I think it really starts in the owned media. So looking here, we can see different types of owned media include one example that in digital marketing is website properties. So you own your website. You own the content on your website. You don't need to ask someone to put content on your website. Maybe you need to ask your your website manager, but your organization owns what kind of content goes on the website. Same thing goes for your blog. Same thing goes for your social media. I'd also put things like email marketing under here as well. So these are channels where you create the content. You get to call the shots on when that content gets sent out and who it gets sent out to. So you totally control this earned media or owned media. Earned media is a second component to this Venn diagram here. And it's another important part of your marketing strategy because this is where people are taking the content that you're creating, the stuff that you're putting on your social media, the stuff that you're sending in your emails, the stuff you're putting on your website, and they're driving it to other people because they think it's great and they want to share it with people. So I think in the past, earned media was primarily thought of as public relations. So public relations people would receive a press release and they could help share that to other big publishers, print newspapers, things like that. But now in the age of digital marketing and the age of the network nonprofit where the word of mouth from your friends and family is oftentimes more credible than something you read about in a paper, that earned media is also reflected in mentions and shares from your constituents who are saying, this organization's doing great work and I love the work they're doing. Check out this blog post or check out this campaign that they're doing. So that's earned media in itself as well. And where paid media comes in and completes this circle or this Venn diagram is that it helps excuse me, it helps drive these connections between owned media and earned media so that more people are seeing your content, more people are saying, hey, that's great, I want to check that out, or even saying, hey, that's great, I want to share that with my friends and family so they can check it out. And as you can see under the advertising here, there's a lot of different types of advertising that you can do, and we're just going to focus on the two today that I think are most effective for nonprofits and are most important for nonprofits to be taking advantage of, which are Google Grants and Facebook ads. So I'm going to pause for a second and let Lisa surface any other questions that have come up in this first section here. And Lisa, I'd love to hear if you have any other comments on how earned, owned, and paid media work together.
Sure. So if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the questions area of your control panel. I welcome them. Um, I find for synagogues that in the past few years, synagogues have started to do a much better job with owned media, which means one, being in more places. So having a Facebook page, having a Twitter presence, having a strong website that's up to date, for example. Um, and the quality of the content in those owned media channels has been increasing a lot. What I have found is that synagogues are pretty um, uh, reactive or not particularly strategic or planful about either earned media or paid media, which is why we're doing this webinar. And you'll see in this Venn diagram that these three things aren't just kind of each in their own world, that it's really, there's a lot of synergies between them, right? So the more owned media you have, the more likely it is you're going to get the earned media, people tagging you in a Facebook post or a tweet or sharing your content that then goes out to their whole network as well. So the better your owned media, the more likely you're to get earned media, and the more social your social media, the more likely it is people are going to pick up and share on that as well. So today, as you learn how to invest more in paid media, you're going to see as you start to practice this stuff that the better your owned media, the more effective your paid media. And the more effective your paid media, the more likely it is you're going to get more earned media as well. So it's really an ecosystem here, and you want to be focusing on multiple aspects of it. Iris just shared in the chat a great way, a great article from Social Media Examiner. Thank you for that, Iris, and I will include it in our follow-up email so that all of you have more resources to be drawing on and learning from at the conclusion. Any questions about earned, owned, and paid media before we move on? Okay, Bridget, continue at a slow pace so people can absorb.
Absolutely. Let me know if I'm going too speedy again, and I will slow myself down. I do get excited about this stuff. And something else I wanted to mention as well is that as we're going through, if there are examples that you can think of from your organization of earned, owned, or paid media, feel free to share those in the chat. Those could make for some good examples that we can bring up when we're talking about how paid media could work in conjunction with possibly some earned media or owned media that your organization has done to kind of provide some real-time examples of how to implement this stuff. So the first thing we're going to focus on here is Google Grants. So I'm not sure how many of you know about Google Grants. I hope it's a bunch of you because it's a great opportunity for nonprofits. And what Google Grants is basically $10,000 in in-kind AdWords that Google gives to nonprofit organizations. It's $10,000 a month. And so some of you might be wondering, what's an AdWord? And the truth is that you've probably seen one, you've probably seen them every day. So AdWords are these ads that come up at the beginning of your Google searches. So for example, we can see here, someone has searched beginner yoga classes, and now it looks like this Laura Yoga Studio and youth yoga classes are both running Google ads so that their websites come up at the top of these search results when someone is looking for beginner yoga classes. You can also see on the side here that there are these other ads as well for Yoga for Beginners, Lilac Yoga Studio. So all of these are ads that these companies have run using Google AdWords to help put their websites at the top of searches that are relevant to their businesses. So Google gives these AdWords to organizations basically for free. And you get $10,000 worth of AdWords spending every month to use for your nonprofit's website as long as you apply for this program. And it's very easy to apply. So how can Google Grants be helpful to your nonprofit? Well, it makes it really easy to get your message out to the right people at the right time. When someone is interested in finding a yoga class, like in this example, they're searching for it online. And I think it's probably the case with a lot of synagogues and with a lot of other Jewish community organizations that they serve specific needs, they serve specific groups of people, and there's probably topics that you can think of off the top of your heads right now that the people in your synagogues might be searching, or people who could potentially be a member of your synagogues might be searching if they wanted to find your synagogue online. So it helps get your message in front of those people who are really seeking it. And then next, you can also solicit donations from within your ad. So this is something that's relevant to a lot of nonprofits. I'm not sure if you would use it for fundraising, but it is an advantage that nonprofits get that other businesses don't necessarily. And then finally, you can also recruit more volunteers and engage more supporters this way. So depending on what kind of calls to action you use in these ads, you can target very specific groups of people through Google's audience targeting tools. And you can reach people and recruit volunteers or recruit people to support you on a specific initiative through these ads themselves. So it doesn't just have to be a broad ad about your organization or your synagogue. It can be something even more targeted than that, and it can still be very effective. So I'm wondering, do you have any questions on that so far, Lisa?
No, but people are sure excited. So,
Okay,
wanting to
cool.
know more about what $10,000 can get you and how to make it work, which I know is what's coming next.
That's what's coming up. Awesome. Okay, so you get $10,000 a month in InKind AdWords. So we're going to go into detail about how we use that and what that means. And there's two restrictions to keep in mind. It would be bad if I didn't just say these at the beginning. So there's this maximum $2 keyword bid. So I'm just going to leave that here, and we'll bring that up in a second. And it's only for campaign ads and text ads. So for example, so what we see here, these are all text ads. Google has a bunch of different ways that you can give Google money so that they can advertise for you on their search engines. Some of these ways includes video, some of these ways include images. And fortunately or unfortunately, nonprofits don't have access. That your $10,000 doesn't cover videos and it doesn't cover images, so it's just text ads. I think this is actually a huge advantage to nonprofits because it means you get to get really, really good at just doing text ads. And oftentimes for nonprofits with limited communications resources, adding in these different layers of different types of advertising you could do actually adds unnecessary complexity. So I think just focusing on making your text ads really, really great is actually a helpful constraint, a positive creative constraint. So I think so here's the link to apply online. That's what I wanted to share here. And you do need to have a functioning website with substantial content, so that's important. And there's some requirements that you have to agree to. And you do have to have 501c3 status, which is important.
So, I will be putting that
Uh,
link in our follow-up email so all of you can easily click through on it. You don't need to be scribbling it down right now.
Great. So we're going to start high level with Google Grants because I think the best way to get the most out of your Google Grant is to build a strong account structure. So your account structure is like the blueprint of your house. You could just start building different parts of your house, haphazardly, but at the end of the day, you'd have your kitchen running into your bathroom, which is running into your bedroom, which maybe you don't even have a front door. And if you don't start out with a good plan in mind for how you need to set everything up, then things are going to get a little crazy. So we're going to focus today on how to set up a great Google Grant account structure because from there, everything else flows really, really easily. And this is one of the things when I've worked with nonprofits on their Google Grants where they either haven't implemented this strong account structure and they're feeling overwhelmed because they feel like their accounts aren't working well for them, or I think mostly it's just feeling like they haven't gotten the right foundation to running their ads, and they feel like their ads aren't working as well for them as they could be. So that's what I wanted to give you insight on today. So this is an example of an animal center. So maybe this is somewhere where you can adopt pets, you can volunteer, and you can also they're also interested in donations. So this account, this Helping Hands Animal Center, is the organization itself. And you can see how they've broken down their campaigns are actually by different calls to action. So within your Google account, or within your Google Grant account, you're the synagogue, so that's what your account, this red label is up here. And the way that you want to break down campaigns are basically what you want to start with when you're first setting up your Google Grant account. You want to think, what kind of campaigns do I want to run? And those campaigns should be focused around what your different calls to action are. So Lisa, if you want to help me think of an example here, what are some of the different calls to action that you think some of the synagogues who are attending this webinar might be interested in running? What kind of calls to action do they want to get in front of people who are on Google?
Yeah, so I encourage all of you on the phone to go ahead and use the chat or questions section and share what you're thinking about. And I also want to take a moment here just to remind you that some of this is about how you want people to act, and some of it also depends on what you think people are looking for. Because when they do a Google search, they have something in mind and they're proactively kind of doing something in that direction. And what makes this particularly successful is when what you want them to do and what they're already looking for overlap. So a few
Absolutely.
examples that have come in from folks on the line include something like enrolling in religious school. So when are people
Excellent.
thinking about enrolling in religious school? Or maybe you might think about when are people thinking about enrolling in school in general. But if you're doing some
Mhm.
targeting, then you can find Jewish people who are doing stuff about starting school, and then they might realize, like, oh, I should also enroll my kid in religious school. It hadn't even occurred to them. Some
Mhm.
others might be particular holidays. So, for example, high holiday services, somebody said, right? That people are looking for
Right.
a place to go to high holiday services. Um, you might also think about that around Passover, for example, which is coming up a little bit more quickly than high holidays. Like lots of people are thinking about hosting a Seder, or what do they bring to a Seder, or looking up resources about Passover, even recipes. Um, how might you insert yourself in there while people kind of have
So
that hunger? A few other
those
things
are
that,
two great. Oh,
yeah,
go
go ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say a couple other things that came up is enrolling in the early childhood program,
Mhm.
and various events like social action or mitzvah day, for example.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got three awesome examples there. What I'm hearing is one call to action is enrolling in services or enrolling in programs, whether it's an educational program, whether it's an early childhood program. We've got enrolling in programs would be one campaign that I would run, maybe just to start high level. Again, this is the first time we're setting up our Google Grant account. Maybe we're going to add some more nuance moving forward, but let's keep it very let's default to simplicity and make it easy on ourselves. So we'll set up one campaign is about enrolling in programs. So that's your call to action. You've got a lot of different calls to action within that, but broadly, you know you want to drive people to enroll in different things. You've got another campaign here that's around people who are interested in different services. So maybe I think the call to action would be interested in different services or holidays. So I think that would be maybe engaging in Jewish holidays could be another campaign that you would be interested in running. And then there was one more, but it's slipping my mind. But we can just start with those two, though, because I think that that'd be good to narrow in there. So if we have enrolling in different programs, that's your campaign level. That's that blue level. So you know, you want to drive different people to enroll in programs, but there's different kinds of programs you want people to enroll in. So, as we see in this example here, this animal center does adoptions, but they do different kinds of adoptions. The people who want to adopt a dog definitely aren't the same people who want to adopt a horse. Those are totally different kinds of people. Just like, for example, if we're changing this and we're saying this is about enrollment, the people who want to enroll in early childcare aren't the same people who want to enroll in ongoing religious education necessarily. Or you're going to want to target those people in different ways. So it's at this ad group level where you're actually coming up with ideas for who's the person who would want to follow through on this call to action. Who's the person who I'm speaking to in this message? And like Lisa was saying, it's really helpful for you to put yourself in that person's shoes and think, okay, what kind of stuff would I be searching for if I was interested in enrolling in early childhood education at my synagogue? And trying to go through those questions and answer them for yourself as you're setting up your campaign structure. Are there any other questions on this, Lisa, at this time?
Nope. Lots of people have examples, but no questions. I think we got our account campaigns
Okay.
and ad group concept.
Awesome. So it's probably still overwhelming to think of, okay, so how do I actually come up with different, what does this mean in action? And, how do I target a specific ad group, but I haven't looked inside of Google Grant accounts. It doesn't make sense yet. Well, we're going to talk more about how we target people within ad groups. So ad groups target the people who want to take action, and they drive them to a specific page on your website. So, for example, you probably have a page on your website. If you don't, then you maybe should, that talks about the early education that your synagogue provides. So you want to make sure that the people who are going to click on that ad are going to end up on that page on your website. There's something that we talk about when we're helping organizations with their websites, that basically the more clicks it takes someone to get to the information that they want, the higher the likelihood is that they're not going to ever get to that page because they're going to abandon your website and they're going to go find it somewhere else. So making sure that the message that you're putting in your ads connects really directly to the pages that are going to give them the answers they're seeking is so, so important to running effective ad campaigns that really help you use the most of that $10,000 that you'll get for free from Google. And so another comment I put here is that ad groups should have 15 to 30 keywords per group. So keywords are words that you use to help describe this audience, these people who you want to target. So if we're going back to this example, we're talking again about enrollment in early childhood programs. So enrollment's our campaign level again, early childhood is our ad group level. For this ad group, we'll want to come up with 15 to 30 different keywords to describe people who might want to enroll in early childhood programs, or the people who you're looking for who might want to enroll in your early childhood programs. Lisa, do you think it'd be helpful to do some brainstorming on what some of those keywords might be? Or
Sure. Yeah, let's think about like an early childhood or nursery school program and uh, parents who might be looking for that. So go ahead and put in
I'd love
there
to.
we go. Here, full-time daycare, part-time daycare, nurturing, parents. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that's
Perfect.
important here is that you are targeting people who may or may not specifically be looking for Jewish early childhood programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like these words that people Reggio inspired or Reggio Emilia, right, which
Mm-hmm.
is like an early childhood philosophy. Is great because people might be looking for nursery school or preschool or early childhood education or daycare. They
Yep.
might not specifically be looking for, synagogue preschool. So thinking about
Right.
all of the different words that people might use as they're exploring that is really good. Outdoor time, learning through play, pre-K,
Mm-hmm.
great words.
Those are great. And so I think out of those, I think the words, those words or phrases like I think I heard some part-time or full-time daycare or preschool, and things like the different types of school specifically or different types of education, like more outdoor time or Reggio inspired. I think those are really good for getting, I think getting more specific can be really helpful. And so things like parent and nurturing might just be a little bit too broad for targeting these types of people. So a parent is the person who you're targeting, but you're trying to think of what that person is seeking out in your program and what they're interested in. And so I think those things like full-time daycare, part-time daycare, that helps describe the where you're driving them to, and helps target what they're seeking. So I'll show you some examples of how we write Google AdWords. And so basically you have a few quick lines and a few quick characters to really hammer your message home. So these are actually some Google AdWords that we developed for a campaign. And so for the headline, you want to be sure to include keywords that you're including, so things like early childhood, things like part-time preschool, things like full-time preschool, and put those right in the title because those are the things that are going to catch people's eyes right away. It can also be really helpful to ask questions. That tends to capture people's attention and capture people's eyes really quickly. And so those are the headlines. The headlines are what you see in blue here. And then we see descriptions in line 1 and line 2. So those you have, just a few little lines there to really show your value and also include a call to action. So you see with each of these, we're showing something that shows the value of this program that HUD is running, and addresses the pain point that's driving people to seek out this specific Google search. And then you see in that second sentence we have a clear call to action, learn more and file a complaint in each one. And so you really want to use the most of those description lines to, 1, show your value, and then 2, tell people exactly what you want them to do. And then the last thing I wanted to mention here is that a lot of you might have some URLs on your website that are kind of long and kind of ugly. I know that I definitely have worked on some websites that have these really long URLs with, like, they've got a percentage in there and the scores and then a bunch of numbers, and then finally you have the name of the page that you're getting to. So the URLs that you can use through Google AdWords are actually display URLs, so that means they're not the real URL. It links to the same page, but it shows something different in the display. And so that's just another place where you can reinforce some of those keywords as well. So you can see here, we use this simple government base URL that kind of showed some credibility and authority. And then we used fair housing, which again was one of our keywords. So I'm going to pause again and see if there are any questions from anyone. Or Lisa, if you had any other comments or insights you want to share.
Yeah, so one comment I just want to add here is, again, as you think about the description, get inside the head of the people who are your target audience. What are the things that are going to make them pay attention to your ad? So, for example, if we continue with our early childhood example, it may be that the people that you're targeting aren't actively seeking Jewish early childhood education. It may be that they have all sorts of assumptions about what that might mean. But if you talk about your school being accredited, for example, that might add some confidence or value there. Or if you talk about caring for your child like family, that might feel, if it's your first child and you're sending them to school for the first time, that feeling of, oh, this is like extended family, might make an important emotional difference as well. So think carefully about that language, and you might even want to run it by some people who have preschool age kids and see how they react to it. One thing that did come up in the questions is to think about how that $2 limit, Bridget, might impact the keywords that you choose.
Yeah.
So do you have to think creatively or more specifically? Joshua also put in the chat a keyword planner that Google offers, and I will include that in our follow-up email. That's a great resource. Thanks for sharing it.
Well, Josh is a few slides ahead of me, and I'm gonna jump forward a little bit because I know we're running through our time here. But we do. So I wanted to mention the keyword planner. It's a perfect transition. So the keyword planner is something that you can use that helps you understand how much the keywords are that you're bidding on. So that $2 keyword limit that we were mentioning that people are asking more about, that basically how Google calculates that is it says, okay, there's a lot of people who are interested in this topic of, for example, early childhood. That's a keyword that probably you would need to bid a lot more money on in order to show up at the top of the Google search results for that keyword. So, something like early childhood that's really broad. There's a lot of stuff out there about early childhood, and there's a lot of people who are competing for that space on Google's front page. The bid is basically what keyword has said that space on their front page is worth. And so there's a lot of, if it's a topic that is, has a lot of information about it online, and there are also a lot of people who are bidding on that particular word or phrase, then the bid for that keyword is going to be much higher. Because you have that $2 limit, it doesn't mean that you can't bid on it. If you think it would be important to include early childhood in your keywords, you can still include that. But it might be less helpful in helping you get your results, your website to the front page of Google. And I think one of the assets that a lot of the synagogues who are attending these webinars has is that you actually have some more particular keywords that you could use to really target your audiences that have lower keyword bids. So one example that I used here is looking up rabbi services, and the landing page is on the website of the group Interfaith Family. And so we can see here that the suggested bids for keywords that are connected to rabbi services, these are things that people might be searching for if they were also searching for rabbi services, are pretty reasonable. They all come in under that $2 limit. And so we can, and Keyword Planner also shows you here what keywords have a lot of competition, so a lot of people are also bidding on keywords, and what keywords have lower competition. And so fortunately, there's a lot of keywords here that have lower competition as well. And that average monthly searches number here gives you an idea of how many people are coming across, of how many people are using this specific keyword each month to find related content. So hopefully that helps clarify that $2 keyword bid a bit.
One more question that came up is about customizing your target market for me. So can you specify that I want this ad to show up in front of men between the ages of 25 and 30 who live in these zip codes near me?
Yes, I don't know if you can do zip code specific. I would actually need to look at that again a little more closely. But there is some specific audience targeting that you can do at the campaign level. So going back here, so when you set up your campaign, you can say, okay, I want every ad within this campaign to reach this person in this gender, this demographic, this whatever. And then within those different groups, you can target more specific people.
Awesome, thank you.
And another thing I wanted to recommend here too is to pick pages that are already popular on your website to design ads around. So, for example, using Interfaith Family again, their most popular page by far is this cheat sheet of Jewish holidays. That's not surprising. They do a lot of programming and communications around interfaith families, and so that's something that probably a lot of those families are interested in and looking for. And looking to them as a resource on. So I would recommend for a group like Interfaith Family, they know that they already have a lot of people who are coming to their website for this specific resource. So if they design some advertising around that resource, it's already getting bumped up in their Google search results because so many people are visiting that page. So running an ad around it is just going to help even more people find that resource because it already comes with some of that search engine optimization packed into the page as is. So I think if any of you have access to your organization's Google Analytics accounts, or you know someone within your synagogue who can help you look at that, if you have it set up, that can be a really helpful guide to think about, okay, what kinds of content is performing really well on my website already? That's the kind of stuff that people are seeking out, and so as I'm thinking about these campaigns, I can also think about, what kind of content on my website people already love and find really helpful, and I can link people to those pages in my ads because I know that they're already looking for that kind of stuff, and these ads are going to help get it in front of even more people. So before we go on to Facebook ads, I want to see if there's any other questions about Google Grants. Again, there's a lot that I could talk about in connection to Google Grants, so I wanted to give you kind of the start and what I think are the best practices in terms of getting yourself started off on the right foot. And then, I'd be happy if you have any additional questions. You can tweet at me or email me as you're getting things set up. Again, I love talking about this stuff, and I'd be glad to answer any more any additional questions via email. But if we have anything, Lisa, right now that seems particularly relevant,
Sure.
we have
So
to answer a few questions now.
two things that came up in the questions, which I just want to verbalize for everyone before we move on. One, if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a deep breath. Google Ads actually walks you through each of these steps pretty clearly. And if you need to come back and reference this, it's all recorded. The thing that I encourage you to pay attention to is being strategic about it. So choosing your campaigns and choosing your keywords thoughtfully. That's really what we want to be conveying to you in this webinar more than anything else. The technical pieces, what you push when and how you make it happen, both Google and Facebook are pretty good about coaching you through that online. And there may be other people at your congregation who can, sit with you and help you do that too if you're feeling overwhelmed. It's more about doing it smart than it is about what buttons you actually push. The second thing I want to just remind people about the $2 limit with your Google grant. So the Google AdWord process is really kind of like a bidding process. So imagine, at, Christmas time, the hippest toy that's out there, and Amazon and Target and Walmart want to be at the top, with their ads. They got to be paying a lot of money to show up there, because there's a bidding process. So with your grant money, Google limits you to $2 bids, which means you may not be able to compete for the hippest, most popular words. But with the kind of work that you're doing, and also being a local organization, I don't think that $2 limit is really going to be, tying your hands behind your back so much. You're going to be able to still do a lot within that $2 limit. So don't worry about it. It just may influence which keywords you can be using and how you're competing to show up in those ads. And I think with that, let's go ahead and tackle Facebook, Bridget.
Great. And to reiterate what Lisa was saying there too, I think, again, we want to give you the foundations, we want to give you the ways to think strategically about this. And I think even getting started with something like, just going back to this, overall account setup, I think this to me is so important in getting you started off on the right foot. So even with just like, pen and paper or pencil and paper, thinking through, okay, so here's the name of my synagogue, and then here's the different kinds of calls to action we want to drive people to, and then here are some of the different ways that could break down by specific interests within those broader calls to action. I think that's so helpful, and that's going to put you light years ahead of other organizations in terms of setting up your account for success in the long term. So getting into Facebook ads, and I think this part's a little more tactical. So we want to talk about, why would you want to use Facebook ads? Well, in my opinion, I think they are one of the most effective paid media tools that nonprofits can invest in. Some of the reasons why: it's easy to target your ideal online audience. There are a lot of really cool tools that Facebook has created for advertisers and especially nonprofits to use to reach the right people at the right time. And so we're going to talk about what a few of those are. It also shows friends who already like your Facebook page, your organization's Facebook page. So as you can see here, you can see on Airbnb that there's a few people who I'm familiar with who already like that page. And so this provides some kind of social reinforcement that, oh, well, they already like it, so maybe I should check it out, which can be very, very powerful. It also not only provides robust targeting, but it also provides really robust reporting. So you can see things as specific as, have people actually completed the conversion goal, the thing that you wanted them to complete on your website. So if you want people to sign up for your email list, Facebook can actually tell you if someone has gone from a Facebook ad to your website and signed up for the email list you want them to sign up for, all within your Facebook reporting, which is really cool in terms of tracking whether or not you're making the right investments that are moving you towards your communications goals. Next, you have a lot of creative options to choose from. So for those of you who were with us when we were talking about Google Grants, that's just limited to text. But for Facebook, you're all experts in visual storytelling now, so this is perfect for you. You can use video, you can use images, you can use all kinds of things on Facebook to drive people to action, and Facebook is a very, very visual platform. So I would argue that things like photos or even videos, if you have them, can be way more effective than things like just text ads or links out to different pages on your website. And then finally, your audience is probably on Facebook. There's like the largest number of people who are using, if anyone's using a social media account today, and they're within your demographic broadly. So I'm thinking people who aren't young teens. Then they're probably on Facebook. And even those teens are probably on Facebook too. So you can really hit many, many different people on this platform, and that's part of what makes it so important and such a great tool. So this is an example of a Facebook ad. This is a sidebar ad. Personally, I don't use sidebar ads a lot, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about them, but they're smaller. They're off to the right-hand side of your Facebook screen. So when you log in, you'll see events and event updates maybe, and maybe your friends' birthdays on that right hand side, and these ads show up below those ads.
ads that I think are more effective are newsfeed ads, which, as you can see here, the image is much bigger. You have a lot more text to play with. And so everything you see in this ad, from this fig tart with almonds and the description underneath, and even the website underneath, all of that is editable text. So that means that you have a lot more characters to play with in terms of getting your messaging in there. I think what you'll find if you haven't used Facebook ads before is that sometimes it can feel challenging to try to fit exactly what you want to say into the limited characters that you have. So you need to get a little creative there. So this is an example of a newsfeed ad. Again, it comes right up in the newsfeed, in between posts from your friends and family. Another thing that Facebook can do, which is great, is it automatically optimizes things for mobile. So for example, this is the same ad that we just saw on the newsfeed, but just made a little bit different so that people can engage with it on mobile more easily. There's nothing that you have to do to change your ad. Facebook just does it for you. Which is great, because as we know, in this very mobile-centric world where more and more people are accessing your content on their phones, that's so important. Something that you may or may not know, which is really powerful, and when you utilize it, is that Facebook and Instagram are connected. So Facebook owns Instagram, and you can actually run Instagram ads through the Facebook Ads Manager platform. This is super cool, because if you are targeting an audience who is on Facebook and on Instagram, you can be targeting them in many different places at once. So I know personally, as someone who's pretty well seated in the millennial generation, I'm on Instagram all the time, I'm on Facebook all the time, and there are definitely brands out there who are using this tactic, and I see their names all the time, both in my Facebook feed and in my Instagram feed. And whether I like it or not, that's really powerful in terms of me gaining greater awareness of this brand and being more interested in their products and services. And so it's definitely something that I think do-gooder organizations like the synagogues who are participating in this webinar should really leverage for themselves. So Lisa, any questions on that so far?
Yeah, one question is there anything people should know about content selection or images? For example, if you are going to go across platforms to Instagram, would that impact how you think about your content or about the text at all?
Great question. So yes, it definitely would. As we can see here, even in these examples, these are the examples that Facebook gives to advertisers. There's one kind of image that they're using on Facebook, which is more, it's a beautiful food picture. It's a close-up, and you can see some of the detail there, and there's a lot more text around it. Then when we get over to Instagram, there's a lot less text. The photo takes a much higher, it takes up a lot more space relative to the text. And I would say maybe the photos, I guess it depends on your, what you think was artful, but maybe this photo is a little more artfully done. This definitely feels like more of an Instagram kind of photo. So if you're not very familiar with Instagram, I recommend just playing around on Instagram for a while and getting a feel for what kind of content does well on there. I think a lot of these, food does really well. Pictures of beautiful landscapes do well. Pictures of people looking really happy do really well. And so I think just getting to know your platform a bit before you develop content, and really trying to make the investments that you're making in content on each platform really relevant to what that audience is already looking at and engaging with, will help your content perform even better. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, and I'll just say, if you were not on our visual storytelling webinar, go back and watch that one. We talk a lot about the power of images and the stories that they can tell. And one question that came up in that one, which I'll just reiterate here, is, if you don't have great photographs and visual assets for your synagogue, it's worth investing in that, which might mean handing a camera or doing a photo contest with a bunch of the teens in your congregation, because they're going to be very Instagram savvy and know what it means to have an artful photo. And sometimes that can be, really little things and details and close-ups. It doesn't have to be 5 people with their arms around each other smiling, which is nice, but it may not actually say a tremendous amount insightful or authentic about your congregation. It's just a happy people picture. So think really carefully about the power of those images. They do more than just fill space. They actually earn people's attention and can say quite a bit about who you are and the nature of your community.
That's a great way to frame that, Lisa. And I think with that in mind, and wanting to keep audience-centered content is something that we're thinking about through all of this, I want to talk about let's talk through the process of how we would actually set up an ad on Facebook. So these are screenshots from the inside of the Facebook Ads Manager. So as you can see here, Facebook really walks you through how you do each part of the ad setup process. So when we start at this campaign level, we can see that there's all these different calls to action that you can pick. So whether you want to promote your Facebook page, whether you want to send people to your website, if you have an app, you can run specific Facebook ads to get people to download your app. So we're going to use I think one of the easiest ads to set up and run effectively is promoting your page. So this is basically driving more people to like your Facebook page. And these ads are really, really successful a lot of the time because it's a very low bar to entry. So you're getting people to like something on Facebook, usually, especially if they're on mobile. It's just a tap of a button. It's just a click if you're on a web browser. And so it's really simple, and people don't need to leave their Facebook page to complete this action. So that's part of why it's really easy to run these ads and have them be really impactful. So I think the biggest asset that Facebook gives to anyone who's advertising there is that you have all these amazing targeting options. So what we'll see on the left here, I think this is probably one of the most important things in this section of our webinar, is that you have some really robust targeting options that include targeting an email list, targeting website traffic, and also targeting app activity. I'm going to assume that not a lot of people have apps, so let's focus on customer list and website traffic. So customer list means you can actually grab your list. You can even directly import, if you have a MailChimp account, you can directly import an email list from MailChimp into your Facebook advertising account and target the people who are on that list. So imagine if someone's already getting emails from you, they're already connected to your organization, and then all of a sudden they see, it comes time to if you're running an ad, let's go back to our example of early childhood. So if you're running an ad for, your synagogue's early childhood program, and it's about that time to enroll, and you're running ads on Facebook, and you've already sent them an email notification. Maybe they come back after reading your email, and a few days later they check Facebook and they see, oh wow, look, there's that same synagogue again who's messaging me, and I should really check that out. I meant to click on that email, but then I was doing a million other things. It's a really powerful way to connect with people who are already getting some of your messages, and just really hammer them home, so you know that you're reaching exactly the right people who you want to reach. So that can be really, really powerful. Facebook can also do something with your lists called, what is it called? It's called list mirroring or something similar to that, where they can actually take your list. They create lookalike lists. They can create a lookalike list. So they create. You don't get access to any additional emails, but they can analyze the emails of the people who you import to your ads manager, and they can actually create similar lists of similar types of people who are on Facebook who you're not already connected to. So that can be extremely powerful. The other thing you can do, which I think is really, really effective, is website traffic targeting. So you can target people who have visited your website, whether it's, for example, if it's c3.com, you can target anyone who's visited any page on c3.com, or you can target people who have visited a specific page on c3.com. So maybe we're running ads for a new position that we're hiring for, and we just want to target people who have looked at the Our Work page of our website. You can get very specific, or you can be very broad. And again, like the customer list, these are people who are already familiar with your organization. They're familiar with your content. So showing them an ad as well can be really, really powerful. Lisa, are there any questions or anything there?
Let's see. Nope. I think we're good. I think it's really important to think about this targeting, right? At the very beginning, we talked about knowing who you want to reach and what you want them to do. So being really specific about this targeting will help you be successful in your paid media.
Absolutely. And so the other thing that I have on the right here, I think this is less important now that we have some of these really amazing tools like the customer list and website traffic, but how Facebook built out its advertising platform, what advertisers have been using for years, and what I recommend you play around with, but after you try this customer list and website traffic stuff, is targeting people by behaviors and interests. So you can target people by, you can just see, this small subset of different behaviors or interests here. You can target them by the kind of media they're watching, whether it's a TV show or if it's a podcast or it's a book. You can target people who are looking at your page on their mobile device. You can target people who live in certain areas. You can target people who are interested in something as specific as one, baseball season. So I think the behaviors and interests are really robust as well and very interesting. And I think it's worth trying out if you feel like you're not hitting the goals that you want to be hitting through customer lists and website traffic. But I think, again, targeting those people who have already encountered your content in some way already is going to be much more effective, especially if you're just starting out. So setting your budget. Again, so here, you can set up your budget on a lifetime budget. So that means over the course of a month, or it can be over the course of a week or a day. Or you can set up your budget to run for specific amounts of money for specific days. So here I have it set up for a lifetime budget. I usually recommend setting it up this way. And I think a month is a really good measure because honestly, when you think about how you use Facebook or how other people use Facebook, some people are on it all the time, but a lot of people have more periodic use. And so it's good to let an ad run for an extended period of time so that you can really see it can take a while to really show the effects of your ad and whether or not it's running and getting the results you want it to get. So if you're constantly in there tweaking your ad and making small changes every single day, your ad's probably never going to perform well because you're not really giving it a chance to excel. But if you are able to, run an ad over the course of a month and basically let Facebook and the Facebook algorithm decide, okay, there's a lot of people in your audience who are online this day or this time. We're going to spend a lot of money, on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. because that's when most of your audience is on Facebook. That's great. Then Facebook can decide to do that. And if you set this lifetime budget, it's not going to hit any daily budget ceilings or anything like that. So that's just what I wanted to emphasize here. So any other questions about Facebook before we wrap up?
Do you have any suggestions about where people should start? How, big of or very specific of a goal, how much money they should start playing with in order to see results and start learning about the cause and effect and what works well for their audience?
Yeah, I think if you can start your Facebook budget somewhere, I think $500 is a great place to start. Even if you only have $100 and you want to spend that over the course of a month, that could be really effective as well. I think if you do have around $100 in a month is probably a good, absolute baseline. I think you'll learn a little more with $500 just because you can reach more people that way. But I think setting up a campaign, especially something very simple like a page-like campaign. So again, driving people to like your organization's Facebook page is something that is probably going to show you really great results and make you feel really positive about using Facebook ads and really get you using some of these targeting tools, which I think are the most important and interesting things about this ad manager platform. So I think starting with something like a page-like ad, which is really simple, and then doing something like trying to import your email list and maybe setting up some of these website traffic audiences, can take some figuring out, but Facebook, like we were saying with Google Grants and Google AdWords earlier, they do a really, really good job of walking you through every step, because if you put yourself in these big company shoes and Facebook shoes and Google shoes, they want you to be able to use their platforms to run ads on them. They want your money. They want to make sure that you feel happy about spending money with them. So they make it as simple as possible when you're going through and setting things up. So, starting with a page like ad, doing a budget from, $100 to $500, and playing around with some of those audience targeting tools, I think is a really powerful first introduction to Facebook if you're just getting started, and Facebook ads rather.
Excellent. And a last question is, what does success look like in Facebook ads? So if you're thinking really, you have a focused goal, like you want people to come to the early childhood page on your website because you're marketing your early childhood program, or you're marketing high holiday services and wanting people to come, buy tickets or join the congregation before the high holidays, or maybe you just want to increase the number of likes on your page. If you're putting in $100 or you're putting in $500, what should you be hoping to see as a result of that? How do you know that it's worth your money and your effort?
That's a great question. And I think with anyone running any kind of online ads campaign, I'd never recommend using just Facebook likes or just growth on a social media platform. I think to me is not a really significant marker of success. It's more about how you connect, how these communications platforms are going to help you reach your organization's goals. So if your organization has a goal to get a certain number of people enrolled in the early childhood program, and you know that in order to do that successfully, you need to be reaching new people who are on these platforms, then I think that using Facebook and growth on Facebook as a metric that's going to help inform that larger goal of enrollment is helpful. And I think it's really all about what kind of communications platforms are going to help you reach your real organizational goals, as opposed to having some kind of specific goal that's just for Facebook. And then getting more specific too, I think there are all kinds of benchmarks online that can tell you on average. The M&R benchmark study, we can include that when we send this out, that can tell you when you look at your performance on Facebook, okay, how are other organizations, how are other nonprofits performing when they run ads on Facebook? What's their cost per click? So like how much do they have to spend for somebody to click on their ad? And that can give you a sense broadly of how other people are performing, and you can kind of judge your nonprofit's performance against that. So I think there's a strategical part of my answer to you, and there's the tactical.
Excellent. That's super helpful. And I think that one of the important points to make that I just want to punctuate here about paid media on Facebook is being really intentional about your audience and your goals. So a lot of the webinars and workshops that we've done on Facebook in the past have focused much more on using it as a way to be a good socialite within your community. So the people who have already liked your Facebook page, and how you're using that to connect people to one another, strengthen a sense of community, really have people engage more deeply. And here we're talking about Facebook in a really different way, which is how can you use ads to ripple out and get in front of people who aren't already connected to your organization and who haven't already liked you on Facebook. The psychology behind that is really different. It's the right content at the right time, perhaps, and it can also really leverage those social connections. So I moved to a new city about 1.5 years ago, and I was amazed at the synagogues that were savvy enough to notice, they had set up their Facebook ads in such a way that the minute that I changed my residence in my Facebook profile, I started getting the Facebook ads from 2 congregations specifically. And the most powerful part of it was, it said at the top of that ad, this friend of yours already likes this page. And so I had a sense of, wow, my community, my people are already there. And it gave me a sense of belonging, kind of already being a warm member of that community before I had ever stepped foot in that synagogue or had liked their page. So there is the potential to really capitalize on the network and the social connections that you've already built, and leverage that to engage new people as well. And Facebook ads are a fantastic place to do that. Thank you, Bridget. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think just, in conclusion, to connect everything we've talked about through this webinar today. So paid media is a really powerful part of your communication strategy, and it works in tandem, like Lisa was saying, with earned and owned media. So if you don't already have great content to start with, there's no reason to put advertising dollars behind it. I'd say focus on that owned media first. Focus on earned media, so people, friends and family of the people you want to connect with saying, hey, this, or people you're already connected with saying, hey, this stuff is great, and sharing it out with their friends and family, and then layer in that paid media portion of your communication strategy. Google Grants gives nonprofits free money. You should use it. If you're leaving this webinar with any one thing, that's a good thing to know. And a successful paid campaign is all about a great structure, not simply a singularly awesome ad. Going back to just talking about that overall account structure for the Google Grants. And Facebook targeting is robust and very powerful. And you should all try to leverage it for your organizations, because it can do a lot of really amazing things and create amazing moments like what Lisa was just saying. So thank you all for your time today. It's been great to speak with all of you and hear some of your amazing examples. And I really hope that you'll be able to utilize some of this, the stuff that you learned here today in your own communications work. If you do have any questions, there's my email at the bottom. It's bcolling, COLLING, @c3.com. Love talking about this stuff. Happy to talk to you more about it. And there's a few more of these webinars coming up. I think the next one looks like here's on February 20th. And so hopefully we'll see you all there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bridget. And thanks to UJA Federation of New York for sponsoring this entire series. If you have registered for the series already, you'll be getting follow-up email with the recording, the slides, and links to other resources. And about a day before our next webinar, you'll get the login info for that. We welcome you to share this information with anyone else at your congregation or at other synagogues who might be interested. We will add them to the list. And look forward to seeing you on February 25th, where we'll be talking about communicating for social. So using Facebook and other social media tools to really connect people, to strengthen relationships, and to strengthen real community within your congregation. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time.